All right. Look
What
at
were
all
we
the
joking about?
people.
Coming into you live from Burbank, California. It's the DemoListen Derby. Wah, wah.
Hey, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right. We're populating pages as we speak.
Love it.
Right. Yay. And some faces that we know and some new faces. Awesome. And love to know that there are voices behind each of those faces. And we will be getting to listen to a lot of them today. So welcome, welcome everybody. I'm Tish Hicks. I'm the Master Sensei of the VO Dojo here in Burbank, California. And this is I'm here with Brittany Cox and Ryan Ricks of Next Level Voice Demos. And Jeffrey Gilbank is our dojo team member here supporting you today. Um, and we're here for our DemoListen Derby. This is an event that we do twice a year, and we were just reflecting as we were waiting for everyone to come on, how much we love this time of year. It's a really super fun and um a hands-on way to demystify any questions that anyone at any level has about demos, because demos are an essential part of a working pro's business, and they're also one of the first thresholds that we cross in the business. So, like any threshold that you cross, there's sometimes emotions or fears or things or excitement and like any threshold that you cross, that you're stepping from one place to another place. So, what we're here to do is lay out what happens with your demo and what a demo needs to do and how it is received in the world. So Brittany and Ryan will share a little bit more about that. Um, One thing that we want to say overall is that this is like a lot of stuff we do in the dojo. This creates the energy and real life circumstances that your demo might be up in. This is a completely nurturing, positive, awareness awakening experience. That's what our intention here today is. So we'll be sharing our insights and our opinions about things, and that's all it is our opinions and insights for this day on what we hear. So, um, anything that feels anything other than that, we encourage you to spend time and talk with us. So we'll keep on reiterating that a demo is something that ideally is a real um, reflection of your essence and who you are in the world and what you're bringing to the marketplace. So it's a personal thing. So and we want it to be the most powerful and impactful business tool as well. So exciting to see so many people here. Brittany and Ryan, why don't you introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about you and what you're up to and how today's going to work.
Oh, I love it. Thanks, Tish. And just like she said, we love this event so much. It always is like such a passage of time for us. We're like, oh, it's that time of year. It's like Christmas. Yay.
It's birthday.
Birthday. Um, so hi everyone, I'm Brittany Cox. I am a voice actor and now voice director. I work in predominantly commercial animation and video game. I also do some narration. Some of my current commercial campaigns are Liberty Mutual, oh gosh, now I'm blanking. Sonic Drive-In, Staples, and then I'm in video games and animation properties like Rainbow High, Genshin Impact, Fallout 76, just to name a few. And yeah, I've been voice directing some animation and video game things as well, which is very exciting. And so today, my part of the process is really helping illuminate, as an actor who puts together demos and listening to demos, what that relationship is and what some actionable things to think about when it comes to a demo, and like Tish said, demystifying that process. And this is my lovely husband, Ryan.
Hello, everybody. So with Brittany in our Next Level Voice Demos business, she is the actor side of things, and I am the audio engineer and technician, and also casting and sonic branding side of things. That was a lot of ands that came out. We wear a lot of hats, which is great, but it's all relevant for our stuff today. So for me, I'm coming from the re-recording mixer, sound designer, engineer background. That is my world. I work across a lot of the same genres that Brittany does. I have a lot of commercial and video game and animation clients, in addition to producing some of our own projects as well. One of the big things that's super relevant for us today, and that's going to kind of inform a lot of what we're going to be doing back and forth, is I got my start in the audio world through the casting side of things, also from the music licensing and sonic branding side of things as well. And so a big part of what we're going to talk about today is when you're submitting your demo to somebody that was in my position or is in my position doing casting and listening to demos and all of that, like what actually is happening when your demo kind of goes out into the void and how people are actually using it and engaging with it. One of the big things, like mindset wise, to kind of just set up right from the get-go is that when you're submitting your demo to potential clients or to a casting director or whatever it might be, is your demo is never listened to in a vacuum. Mm-hmm. Your demo is always being compared, is not the right word, but your demo is being listened to in a stack of other demos, right? So there's no scenario where it's a beautiful day and we're just going to sit down and have a cup of tea and we're just going to listen to this one demo and it's going to be delightful. Is my job as in casting is always to start with 100, 200, sometimes more demos, pare them down, and then submit those pared down lists to our clients in order to choose who they would like to either hear more auditions from or who they would like to bring in for particular jobs. And that's all stuff we're going to touch on throughout the day today. And so in the context of the event and kind of what we're going to be doing and how we're going to be listening and all of this stuff is we're going to kind of set up a mock day in a casting office. And so the idea is that whoever submitted their demos in the list in our various genres, our commercial, our video game, animation, whatever, is we're going to take it as, okay, we've put out a call for, auditions, and these people have submitted their demos, and we're going to listen to them in context, and we're going to see where things land and how things fall. And it becomes really apparent in this context when you're listening to things one after the other, where some things fall short and where some things really shine. And like what Brittany was saying, our whole job today is to give you some actionable things to think about, some actionable ways to kind of open your ears to ways that demos are being used and how you might be able to relate to your demo in a different way that might help open some new doors for you.
And what we always like to say with this event in particular is the mark of a good demo is that it's getting you the audition opportunities that you want. It's opening doors for you that you want or hope for. That's the only mark of a good demo. So today, if we're giving feedback about things we hear, but your demo is working for you and getting you the type of work you want, great. Take our notes with a grain of salt. But if it's not getting you audition opportunities, if you haven't been able to land an agent, if it's not opening doors for you for where you are right now, then some of the things we'll talk about today are things to maybe look at and have from a different perspective for moving forward.
Exactly. So in addition to those things, kind of some broader framework stuff before we jump in and kind of run. We put together a little fun list that we call like running the gauntlet, which is like a descriptors of things, of ways to break down kind of how we're listening to the demos. But right before we jump into that, I just want to kind of set up two big kind of camps of thought for us as we're going through even the stuff in the gauntlet. And so as we're listening to the demos today, obviously we're not listening with an ear for a particular job, meaning that like a bank client has come to us and said, we want a strong female voice with a lot of gravitas, but also feels like really cheeky and relatable. That would obviously be a filter that would influence how we're listening to people's demos. We don't have that today. So we're just listening to the demos as they are. But there's two primary ways, we're listening to the demos. First is what I would call performance, the performance bucket, and the second is the production bucket. So by performance bucket, what we're talking about is the acting. We're talking about the personality. We're talking about the impression that we receive as complete strangers who have not been involved in any of your lives in any, real way whatsoever, how that comes through. Like, do you come across as really snarky? Do you come across as like really fun? Do you come across as like super laid back? All of these things fall under the kind of broad umbrella of performance. In the context of a video game or an animation demo, that falls under like characters and vocal prints and archetypes and all of these fun things. And then the other big bucket is the production bucket. And that is where we're going to be talking about authenticity, meaning like, do your commercials sound like they are on the air today, or do they sound like they're on the air 10 years ago or through the speaker of a garbage can, like mixed in with, a lot of ambience around your street? Like, so production falls under the category for me of like authenticity, right? Do these feel genuine? Do these feel like they exist in the market that they're designed to exist in? And so these are kind of the broad buckets we're going to listen to, and we're going to talk about a lot more specifics as we go. But just to kind of set the stage before we jump into like, here's how we're going to, run the gauntlet, is always filter those things through both of these buckets, as we have our performance bucket and we have our production bucket. So with that, Tish, if we wanted to like pull up the gauntlet and kind of just run through a couple key points on there, so that we can all be on the same page, and then jump in and get crazy. Let's see.
Oh, and you're muted.
And you're muted. I
think. See your mouth moving.
Voiceover professional.
We did it.
Mute buttons are hard, man.
Yeah. So these are some of the things that we're going to be listening to. So in the first round, we're just going to be listening to little samples of each. We're going to do a little sampling, like as we just took a little journey, like anywhere in your demo. So the first round, we're going to be the first impressions of your voice. Does your voice pop? Does it grab me in the first 3 seconds? Does your voice cut through? Does it catch my attention from the other side of the room? Connection, does it move me? Is it true? Does it feel genuine? Likability, do I want to spend more time with you when it's done? And most importantly, do I have a sense of you-ness? Everybody has a demo, only you have your demo. Do I know when it's done? Do I know you when it's done? And does it share what is uniquely you, as well as getting the job done? Then there's a next layer of impressions, the middle impression, as Ryan was saying, the production quality, all of the sound and music effects. Is your voice the first thing that we hear? I was listening to someone's demo the other day, and there was like 9 seconds of music. I'm like, I got things to do. Competitive skills, does it sound like something on air, nationally, regionally? Which markets are you looking for with this demo? Range, do you have a good sense of all the facets of your voice? Contrast, what is way different? What can you do with your voice? Versatility, can I interpret what you can do in between, right? If you can do red and you can do blue, I would imagine that you could do purple. color-wise, not attitude-wise, but or maybe it's
Maybe.
energy. At the dojo, we talk about something that we call the celometer. That is the levels of intimacy and energy, and we want to see that you are easily able to handle a very intimate, quiet thing and a higher energy retail thing if that's what your voice lends itself to. And then the lasting impression, as Ryan was saying, is it current? Is it up to date? Does it reflect the trends and brands that are on there? Humor, does it make me laugh? Does it find you're funny? That's a huge thing. Pacing, do the spots flow at the right rate? Surprise, is there something you weren't expecting or a cumulative effect? Um, Rhythm, I love this one. I always think when I listen to someone's demo, I kind of like in the same way that I do when a stage play starts, I like close my eyes as the curtain goes up and then what is the ride? But I think of it like, is it a good roller coaster ride? When I press play, does it make me go like woo wee ah woo zhoo zhoo wah? And then what we want is to have the feeling of like, again, that was awesome. But there's no place where it stops or anything like that. Marketability. Do I know exactly what I can do with your voice? This is the most important thing to understand about a demo. A demo is to serve the client or to open doors to build relationships with your business partners, which is your representation. So, do I know what to do with what I can do with your voice? The vibe, what's your thing? Undeniability. Is this something that I can't resist? Like, oh my gosh, who is this? I have to know this person. And yeah, and then Ryan talked about the context of who is listening and why. So you guys have access to this in the chat. So kind of these are all things that we can all be listening for. And that's also how we work at the dojo. Like we'll be doing this, but you guys get to have the experience of listening to a bunch of demos in a context as well. So always trust your intuition and what comes up for you. That's another practice that we'll be doing here.
Mm-hmm.
So, awesome. Well, shall we begin?
Yeah.
Let's do it. And
Yeah.
then,
Well, I was going to say before we like start listening,
yeah.
just so we can touch on it, because like I know this is where all the questions start piling in and stuff. Is so
Mm.
if throughout the day today, and this goes for both Brittany and myself, and for Tish as well, when we start answering questions and things pop up as we're reviewing things and whatnot, we're both making ourselves available
Or
for
all three of us.
all three of us, both of us as a
Mhm.
Velcroed pair and Tish as another Velcroed pair, are all available for like 15-minute, no obligation chats that you can access through our various websites. I know Jeffrey's going to be putting that information in the chat for everybody. I got the thumbs up there. So as we go through, just rest assured that if on our limited time today we don't answer your questions, or if we inspire more questions, which hopefully that's kind of the goal, is to inspire more questions and new ways to look at things, we're all available outside of this limited time together.
And that includes if we don't get to your demo today. We are happy to listen to or listen in more detail outside. So please get on our calendars because we had a lot of demos submitted.
Yeah,
which is great.
Which is
Well
awesome,
done.
right?
Yeah.
And so one of the before we jump in and really start kind of listening to things, I feel like it's always an important thing to talk about. Like a lot of common questions are like, when am I ready to make a demo? Why should I make a demo?
What's the use?
What's the use of a demo? All of these things. So let's talk about a few like little specific things to kind of set the stage there, and then that'll also inform how we're listening to other people's, the people who've submitted their work and stuff today. So do you want to talk a little bit about that stuff?
Yeah. So the great thing, a lot of questions that Tish and we get is, when am I ready for a demo? The great thing about our work with the dojo and getting training is when it comes to copy, a good benchmark of when you're ready for a demo is you can pick up a piece of copy and you know what to do with it. You know you can do it in a couple of takes, like you get in the general vibe of it in a couple of takes and you're like, oh, I know what this commercial is. This is high retail. I know what to do with that. Or, oh, this is a national campaign that's very expansive. I know what to do with that for yourself as an actor. Um, and then what was your other? You gave a few, and my mind just blanked because I haven't had enough coffee.
Because she hasn't had enough coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then also, so that's a good benchmark for
Yeah.
like when you feel like you're ready to make a demo is when you have a broader context for kind of the genres of where you want to fit.
Yeah.
Right. But also you have a situation where like there's some specifics in there as well. So to skip ahead a little bit, like industry standard expectations for a commercial demo, let's say, because that's the genre we're going to start with, is lengthwise, a demo typically is 60 seconds long when it comes to a commercial demo. And in regards to what to include on there, our feeling about kind of what to include on a demo and how to approach a demo is from the inside out, right? Is you want to make sure that your demo, like Tish was saying, feels like you.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a scenario where there's a cookie cutter formula for how to assemble a demo. We're not looking at a commercial demo and saying, here are the 7 buckets that we need to fill, and everybody needs to have their version of these 7 buckets.
Mhm.
If you're not into a particular thing, or you feel that a particular bucket, so to speak, is not your vibe, then it doesn't help you to include it in your demo. Your demo is there to showcase your strengths and what you're bringing to the table. It's not there to fit a mold of some kind. And so that's just something else to consider. And so in regards to like when you're ready to make a demo, you have kind of Brittany's guidance of in the sense of like you feel like you're in the ballpark of things. You can like look at direction on an audition and be like, oh, like this is this kind of feeling, or this is like a warm and anthemic, or this is like high energetic, high retail, and you feel that you can put yourself in that ballpark energetically, relatively easily, and things like that.
And then just one more thing on top of that, your demo is a tool. It is a marketing tool. And Tish talked on this just a little bit, but just to reiterate, because this is something that always comes up, it's for a very specific purpose. So if you think of it as like, who is this demo for? What doors is it trying to open? And what do I want them to know about me? That will cut through a lot of the, oh gosh, there's so many options. What do I do? What do I include? It's a tool. And it's for a specific purpose. That's all it is.
Exactly.
And Tish, did you have anything to add on to that before we jump in?
Yeah, there's a couple things. I do. I needed more coffee. Yeah, being ready to deliver beyond, like what we like to do at the dojo is any good demo producer is going to meet you and take you where you are and make you sound good, but it's kind of like, can you it's kind of like when you get your hair cut at the salon and you get the blowout and it looks great for that day, but can you do that the next day by yourself? You want to make sure
I
that
can't.
you're an nincompoop. That you can deliver what is on your demo, because that is the proof of the pudding. Trust that everyone has their own gestation period. There's no set time. I've been working for exactly 42 days, or 4 weeks, and it's everyone's going to be on their own gestation period. And then one of the other foundational principles of the dojo, and why we love working with Brittany and Ryan, because they tune in on this intuitive level. One of the founding principles of the dojo is voiceover is communication, and communication is an exchange of vibrational energy. So there's the words that we're saying, and then there's the experience of receiving them. And because a demo is the one time in your career that you have complete control of what you are creating, why not choose things that truly resonate for you? like if you're a vegan, don't put a Carl's Jr. ad on your thing, even if you have a cool hip voice, right? It doesn't resonate with you authentically. So just and then we'll talk about process later, but the way that Brittany and Ryan work really tunes into who are you. So that's good. And then just one other thing, which is another mindset thing that we work on here. You'll often hear in the industry that the terminology is to submit something. We submit a demo, we submit our to an agency. And at the dojo, we really like to be aware of how making little semantic shifts can be empowering. Because if we submit, I submit to you, I have no power. If we deliver our product that is going to serve you, whole nother ball of wax, right? Yeah. So, those are
I
just
love
some
that.
mindset things as we go into this. And remember, this is all with love and all for goodness and
And
for
actionable.
actionable and also for everybody's goodness, right? This isn't about you, this is about us. And yeah, so
So let's start with commercial.
so
Bow,
let's start.
bow, bow, bow,
Yeah.
bow.
And if you
Excellent.
guys have any questions or anything, just put them in the chat, and Jeffrey will keep track. And if there seems a place to bring them in, so but as they come up, put them in the chat because then we can track them. So,
Alrighty. So I'm just going to bring up our commercial folder for today. So everybody should be seeing a little finder window with a list of all the people who submitted their commercial demos today. Just give me a thumbs up
Don't
so I can
forget
make sure
to
it's all.
put on the animation ones as well, also.
Hello,
Awesome.
Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin. Good to hear from you. Brilliant. So to switch things up, usually we start at the top and meander our way down the list. We're going to start at the bottom of the list and meander our way up. Just
to switch it up.
to keep it fresh. So as a reminder about our two big buckets, in addition to all the specifics we laid out on the gauntlet sheet, is we have our performance bucket in terms of your personality. Do we feel that we're getting a sense of who you are and all of that stuff? And our production bucket in terms of sound quality. Do the commercials feel like actual commercials compared to like what we think commercials might sound like, et cetera, et cetera.
And
So
our process for this first round of listening is what Ryan learned to do in his casting office. And
we should probably talk about that.
yeah, and we hear this from this is very standard for a lot of casting because, like he was saying earlier, with demos, these casting directors are listening to hundreds of demos at a time. They don't have time to listen through the whole thing from top to bottom. So the process that he learned is a couple of seconds in the beginning, couple of seconds in the middle, couple of seconds towards the end. And if something strikes of like, ooh, I need to listen to more, then you put it into what we have our next round folder. So that means, okay, I want to come back and listen to more because there's something here that really strikes me.
Right.
So yeah.
Exactly. And so, yeah, so that's how we're going to do it. Is we're going to listen to those little snippets, and then we're going to talk about some things that jump out within those snippets, and then we'll circle back, and towards the end of the event today, we'll listen to maybe a full demo or two all the way down from top to bottom.
Yeah.
Just to see how all that plays out, because there's always surprises in there.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, let's.
And hold on one more thing. And then also what happens in this process of three people having different responses is often what happens in like when someone listens to your demo. Everyone will have their own thing and then a decision will be made. So you also get to see how subjective listening to anyone's demo is. And remember that all of this business is selection, not rejection. Another huge mindset thing with whatever you're putting forward.
I love that.
Indeed. Yes. Today is about actionable things that you can, to open your ears up to how to improve or like to know that you're like on the path.
Yeah.
These are all helpful things. So with that in mind, let's jump in at the very bottom of our list
Vanessa.
with Vanessa, and let's listen to some things.
When you're busy dealing with day-to-day life, you can miss a few things. With Walmart Pleasant Home, an associate, Edward Jones recommends investment strategies that have proven themselves for the long term. Life and style with the new QX60. with Bill Pay on the TD Bank app. Unexpectedly simple.
Okay, so a couple of things right off the bat is using our industry standard 60 seconds. This demo is close enough to that. It's like just 10 seconds over, which is great. From a performance side of things and a production side of things, there was a few things that jumped out to me. Production-wise, at the beginning of the demo, I felt like a lot of the music choices and sonic branding of the demo felt more like an e-learning or narration type thing, as opposed to how these brands use their music selection and their sound design choices and stuff to represent themselves. So there was immediately, for me, I felt this kind of twing of, that's not a real commercial. That's not how Walmart advertises. That's not the type of music they use. And it created this rub for me of, I don't know if I trust this. And then from a performance side of things, I was clicking through, I felt like the energy level lived in the exact same place everywhere that I clicked. And I never felt like I was getting different sides of Vanessa's personality. I never felt like I was getting her on like a bright, sunny, awesome day, her on like a super chill pajama only day, her like out on the town, or her like making a joke and like, being surrounded by, a bunch of kids, whatever it was like in that first spot. What about you? What jumped out to you?
I felt the same way. I love Vanessa's voice. It has like this warm, rich quality to it. But again, the performances everywhere we clicked all lived at the same pacing, the same energy. And that's, and for some of those clients, having listened to hundreds of commercials, or more than that at this point, but some of those clients, their energy level is different than what the performance was in this. So yeah, that was for me. So I felt like I wanted a lot more from Vanessa. Tish, what else did you hear?
Agree with all of these things, and especially about the unique voice print that is here. I didn't hear a lot of calibration of pacing or being able to change things up. And then I also, and this is like again with supreme love and and understanding that everyone's idiosyncrasies of their own voice becomes part of their signature. But there seems like there might be some sort of speech impediment, or there was something that was just a little caught my ear of. I would have to listen again to hear, but it was something like, oh, something about the diction that, and if that is your thing, if that is something that you have, awesome. How do you make that part of your strength and then also work to be able to mitigate it as well, right? And I'm the most sibilant of the sibilants. I have S's all over, and so I need to be in awareness and know how to calibrate that. So, yeah, so super warm voice print, and I think a demo could be even stronger.
Yeah, I agree. And like this is kind of another layer of what we're talking about, where your demo is not listened to in a vacuum, right? Is the second we hear Walmart, the second we hear whatever that bank was, or the Audi spot, or whatever the car spot was, we all as people, we hear these commercials all the time, right? They're constantly on our podcasts, they're constantly on our television, they're constantly on our YouTube stuff. So we have this like kind of sense memory of how commercials sound. We all have it because we're just exposed to commercials constantly. And so when we come across in a demo context where those things don't line up with what we're used to hearing, that's where the rub is, right? And so the goal is always to not represent yourself with the idea of a commercial. The goal is to be more referential and to fit yourself into what a commercial actually sounds like.
Because it's a very easy way to establish trust of like, client, agent, you can trust me because look, it sounds like I'm doing an actual commercial. Even if I've never booked before, this is how I sound on real stuff, so you can trust me.
Right.
already.
Right.
We talk about it at Dojo, internal and external tuners. So internal, what does shopping at Walmart mean to you? And then external, what in general does a Walmart campaign now sound like? So being able to, like an Etch a Sketch, bring those things together.
Yeah.
Love it. Absolutely.
Exactly. Great. Well, let's jump into Tom.
And Vanessa, thanks for going first. That's awesome.
Thanks, Vanessa. You're
Thank
awesome.
you.
The two most important days in your life are the day you were born, or do you? You talk to her every day. We protect what really matters. We're the shirt that wicks away moisture. Dancing with Amy the way I was. Talk to you later. Toodaloo.
Interesting.
Wow, that deeper voice took me by surprise.
Yeah, that was like, whoa, that was a really big color shift.
Yeah.
But I think for me, what was really interesting is, again, listening from our buckets of performance and production. Performance-wise, I felt like the energy still lived in a very similar place, and that the pacing throughout each one of the spots felt very much the same. And it felt, again, more like an idea of a commercial rather than what commercials actually sound and feel like from a pacing standpoint, from an energy standpoint, from a vibe standpoint. And the shock that came from hearing something different came more from the production side of things, where one spot felt like it was just dry voice, and then when that shock came on, it was like, oh, like that feels different. But it wasn't. It was a little bit confusing. And then towards the end, where we got into some of the more like charactery type stuff, where it felt like we were kind of hearing that voice over the phone and they were kind of putting on a thing. That's a very kind of, if we were talking about industry trends, right, and expanding on this idea of your demo is not heard in a vacuum. This is another layer to that, right? Is like, when you're listening to commercials, the trend of the kind of the quirky comedic character is not necessarily at the forefront of the market anymore. And in the context of a demo, yeah, you might still hear some spots like that on the radio or whatnot in your area. But in the context of a demo, you have to think of it a little bit differently. Like, is that actually going to serve you in the context of a demo? And the answer is generally in today's market, not so much.
Think of it like when it comes to a demo, especially a commercial demo, what 90% of people are listening for, whether it's an agent or casting director, is they want to get to know you, who you are as a human. If I walked into your office on a good day, what would that be? What impression would I leave? And so as soon as we're adding on character voices or things like that, it feels inauthentic. And our whole job with a commercial demo is to feel authentic. And the character stuff, or anything that feels put on, or even like super announcery, is a trend from like 10 years ago. And so whether it's a new demo or you've done it pretty recently, it automatically dates it from a demo perspective in bigger markets. Just something to keep in mind. And one thing I also, from Tom, with where we clicked through, I wouldn't know, I wouldn't be able to have listened to that and then be able to talk about him from a branding perspective. I don't know who Tom is. It wasn't a clear like, oh yeah, he's relatable, laid back, can do this cool everyman thing. Like, I trust him with tools. I'm not sure where he lives branding wise, and how I would be able to describe him as an actor. And Tish, what did you hear?
It's interesting. I felt like Tom had a sense of where his voice lies. I'm the gruff guy, the mature guy, and that there was some variation about what one does with that kind of voice. I found the first spot drew me in, which I think is also really, really important. That first spot needs to grab me, because otherwise we'll super like, okay. So I did find it compelling. That surprise for me was part of the roller coaster ride of like, ooh, and he can do that. Um, So I thought that was variation within an understanding of a voice. And then I think there could be even more of him. And I think this is really interesting when you have a voice that is like a sound of a thing. To make sure, how do you again do that external tuner and your point of view, your heart. So I found this more compelling. I was drawn in,
And
and
this is
I
such
love
a
variation.
and this is for everybody listening, this is such a great barometer of like people here in the industry hear different things and can hit differently. And so just like we said before, if your demo is opening the doors for you that you want and getting you the work that you want, great. Take our feedback and these actionable things with a grain of salt. But if it's not opening the doors for you that you want or getting you the opportunities you want, these are things to consider. So all of that.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And so with that, like to kind of synthesize it down into like an actionable thing is, your demo is not your resume. Your demo is a tool to open specific doors for you, right? And so if in this example, let's say that, Tom is a working actor and he, did these spots at some point and just kind of pulled them all together and made the demo. That's a great resume, but is it actually serving you and communicating a clear sense of your branding? And what Brittany and I both felt was in that regard, it kind of missed the mark in that way. And so for us, your demo, we think about demos not as resumes, but as tools. And it's like tools for what? Tools to communicate an easy way to talk about you and your first impression. Meaning that this is not about, it is in a way about putting limits on a thing, but it's not about like putting limits on you in terms of your acting ability, right? Like the assumption that we all make is that as a voice actor, you're coming to the table with a lot of ability. You're coming, like the fact that you're a voice actor means that first and foremost, you have a voice and you're an actor, right? So there's a lot of things that fall under that category. But in the context of the demo, what's most important for somebody that's never met you before, that's just hearing you for the first time, is to be able to kind of, in a way, parrot or synthesize back some key words to whoever they're working with, whoever their client is. Because with me, I was never the end client working in the casting office. I would listen to the demos, and then my job was to go to the client and be like, hey, I just listened to Tom's demo. Like, he's got this laid back, super cool energy with kind of a gruff vocal print. Could be cool. And that's how I would, synthesize everything down into a couple of key words to take, to the client. And that's what we're listening for when Brittany was like, I don't have a real clear sense of your branding. We're intuiting some things and kind of implying some things that weren't necessarily there in the context of this particular demo. But that's the actionable thing, right? Is when a perfect stranger listens to this demo,
how would they describe you?
How would they describe me? And make it simple. How would they describe me in like 2 or 3 keywords? Would they describe me as like super warm, very caring, and very knowledgeable? Or would they describe me as like really quirky, like super funny and kind of snarky? Or, whatever those things are for you.
Maybe we could play around with distilling those things. Like, what did I get?
Excuse me for a second.
Yeah, exactly.
Kevin, we'll be taking questions in a little bit. If you want to type in the chat, Jeffrey can answer in the background.
My laptop is not here, so I'm using my phone today. But have you listened to my demo?
Darling, we're listening as they come. So we're in process. So if we don't listen to you, we can spend some time one-on-one with you. Okay.
Perfect. Well, let's jump in with Susan and see if we can come away with just our little snippets that we're listening to, come away with like
some descriptors.
I needed a car with room for my grandson's hockey team and all their stuff. Your sticks? That's right. You can do it with the Dexcom G-Tails, and so is our present and future owners, which means that we've decided that our interests come to eat, fun to say. Boom, chicka pop, boom, chicka pop, boom.
Okay, that was adorable. That made me giggle. So how I would describe Susan is, I would say, quirky, friendly grandma vibes. The the grandma who would show up to your game and maybe she has like one of those wine cans with her. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I want to party with Susan. I think she'd be fun to hang with.
Right. And I would say the same. I definitely got like a great sense of humor.
Yeah.
I got a lot of brightness. Like I felt like her personality was very like not explosive, but for lack of a better word, like just like she was just out there. Yeah, effervescent was great. I would say so. Great job communicating like if
branding.
Your branding, if that's kind of how you want to represent yourself, fantastic, because those things came out loud and clear. That being said, I did feel like I was getting a lot of the same type of energy as we clicked through. And so I feel like, even within a bright, quirky, effervescent kind of branding, there's a lot of room to stretch out and to explore different nooks and crannies of what that could mean from your own life experience or from other things. And so I felt like if there was a way to improve upon this demo, for me, that's what I felt was missing, was having a little bit more exploration of what that branding could mean on a slightly deeper level. Because I was getting a lot of the same, like, this is very bright and friendly. Then the next one felt very bright and friendly, but just with different music underneath it.
Like maybe exploring things that are what Tish was talking about with the intimacy, sellability, all of that stuff. Like maybe something a little more intimate. What would that sound like? Or something more serious and knowledgeable of like, I got you. We're going to talk about something serious now. Would be interesting, but yeah, her branding came through.
Yeah, definitely. Like quirky fairy godmother, definitely. And then I think there's a little bit of even projection in all that once again, finding other levels. And then I would even think, so you definitely have a very specific voice and a very specific demographic that your voice serves. So what are all the ways that you can use that? So what is, something that could be, about something serious that people who are who are older need to deal with, or what are the subjects that an older voice will be the one to get the message across or relate to. So finding those variations. Yeah, and
Awesome.
my first impression was that it sounded a little dated, also with the energy.
Sure.
A little old school.
Sure.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like this is what, again, like kind of what Tish said, is having all these different perspectives in the bucket is very similar to what you're going to, what actually happens in a casting office
when you send it out.
when you send it out, in our feedback so far, like, I'm keying in today to energy, and I'm keying into, kind of the feeling of the performances throughout, and also like, some of the production notes in terms of music choices and things like that. Whereas Tish has been tuning into vocal print, meaning, does your voice have some grit in it? Does it sound age-wise? Does it sound like an older or younger type voice on this?
And how does all that come together?
Relative scale. And so it's just, it's just another way to experience things. It's not all vocal print wise, and it's also not all energy wise. It's a combination of both of those things, and how your vocal print is coming across in the different energies that are represented on your demo, and vice versa. So it's just a lot of ways to kind of
approach things
and listen to things. So let's jump. Oh, here we go. We've got another dude, Steven. Maybe not. Hold on. There we go.
There's meant to be, 7.5 billion of us sharing this planet? And no two can help keep your business finances emotional, being real. Because through our experience...
Okay. Couple of things right out the gate is...
Very long.
It's a 3-minute, 22-second demo, which communicates a feeling of, like it feels kind of like, hey, other person, like, you do the work of my branding for me. Like it feels a little bit extreme. So
Yeah.
like, especially knowing that in today's market, a full demo when listened to from start to finish is landing around 60 seconds, give or take a few on either side of that. 3 minutes and 22 seconds.
Is a lot.
In the casting office, unfortunately, if I were just clicking through quickly and going through my list for the day, the second I saw 3 minutes and 22 seconds, I would have passed on Steven. And that's something really important to keep in mind is, when it comes to kind of industry expectations, it comes about doing your research, right? Of knowing kind of what a commercial is. I felt like some of these spots that we heard did not necessarily fall within the commercial umbrella of like brands and clients that are represented in the commercial marketplace. So it felt like Steven could benefit from doing like some more market research and making sure that only his best commercial stuff is represented on his commercial demo. And that would help serve to cut things down and make it more manageable. Because in the context of, 200 demos that any casting director is listening through, any reason to say no is a good reason to say no, because you've got to get 200 pared down to 15
to share with the client.
So if a demo comes up and it's a commercial demo, but it sounds like a narration demo, that's a reason to say no. Or if a demo pops up and it's 3 minutes and 22 seconds, that's an easy no. And so it makes the casting director's job easy. Our job, and especially how Brittany and I approach the demos that we make with all of our clients, we don't want to give anybody a reason to say no.
Yeah.
Our job is to clear away all of the kind of industry standard stuff that people can just take that for granted. You're going to get a 60-second demo. The music choices are going to be there. That a commercial demo is going to sound like a commercial. So then when people hear your demo, they're just hearing your personality and they're just getting a sense of who you are. And there's no reason to say no. You know what I mean? Like it just clears the board a little bit.
And so with Steven, great vocal, like there's a lot to do with that vocal, but it, clicking through it stayed at a very similar energy. And there might have been some stuff in between, but because it's so long, I felt like we're missing a lot of stuff. So an actionable thing is maybe it could do with a lot of editing to really showcase those different energy levels that may be in there. But yeah, I definitely wanted to hear more commercials for sure.
Yeah. It's an incredibly compelling voice. Sterling Holloway comes to mind, a classic voiceover voice. And so this is a little weird, but the image that comes to mind is trusting that you have that classic sound. But do you know those images of Santa Claus, like GQ Santa Claus? Like it's Santa Claus, but it's like hip of the day Santa Claus. And not that you have to be hip of the day GQ, Stephen, but how do you take the obvious, skill and experience and beautiful voice that you have, and that it's almost like Stephen and Susan could be Santa and Mrs. Claus with that warm and somewhat playful, a twinkle in the eye voice, but just take all of this, and I also hear experience. So take that experience and just kind of get it into a more up to date version of that. You got all the goods. Maybe it's just reordering and repackaging, and I don't know why I'm all obsessed about the hair today, but but it's a compelling voice for sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, at this point, like listening to even just 4 demos, like some of you might be asking, like, okay, cool. Like everything needs to, like, if I'm making a commercial demo, like I need to make sure everything sounds and feels like a commercial. Well, how do I do that? Right. Or like, how do I know that what's on there feels current or feels whatever? And this is where, like, again, kind of another expansion of your demo is not listened to in a vacuum comes into play, of doing your research, right? Of like, we have amazing tools today in YouTube and
iSpot
TV and all of these great places to where you can actually like sit and listen on repeat to commercials and do research to find out like where things stack up and where you might fit. And so, that becomes a really important thing for you. So where like when you go to make a demo, you can make sure that everything is feeling current and is like in the ballpark of these things. It's not a scenario where like, this client that's represented on your demo uses this particular thing and does this very specific thing, and yours isn't exactly that. So, no, it's more about just being in the ballpark of things.
Yeah.
And a lot of the demos we've listened to, even in this short list, we haven't been in the ballpark yet. You know what I mean? And so this is one way of just doing some research and just kind of getting in the ballpark of what things are, as opposed to just relying on kind of that subconscious
Like that feels fine. That should work.
Yeah, it's always important to be more referential with that.
All right. Let's on to the next, Scott.
On to the next.
We know you. We know how hard you have to work.
Yeah.
We know that sometimes you just need to cut loose.
Red Zone, live on Sundays.
No, it doesn't run on night. Might ask is, why would anyone limit the Nexus Prime? You're a kid holding on to the thread. This.
Excellent. I believe all those commercials. I feel like Scott's working, and I feel like those are all spots that he booked, and I'm like, I would want to listen to more to be like, okay, what am I missing in between? Because I believed everything.
Yeah. And I felt like everywhere we clicked, we got a different energy. Flavor. We got a different feeling, like things felt like we were in a different place all of a sudden, which made things feel really interesting. And that's kind of that roller coaster ride that Tish was mentioning earlier. Is like, just in clicking through these random spots on the demo, like, does it feel like we're in one place with you and then in a different place and then in a different place and then in a different place?
But it all felt authentic. Like I believed nothing felt like a character put on.
Yeah.
And also, if we were to put these voices together, Scott would be kind of on the lighter side of the gruff thing. So if we put him in like a spectrum, Scott would be here, Tom would be here, Stephen would be here. But I really got a sense of Scott's personality. Like if I met
which is the
Scott,
whole
that
point.
I'd be like, oh, hi, it's you, Scott. Okay, yeah. And now, what I want you guys to notice is how when we all say yes, it happens really fast. That's undeniable, right? Just notice what happens when we're like, yeah, definitely. Put him in the next round, right?
Yeah. Super easy. And that's kind of what we were talking about on this before we listened to Scott's demo of, there was no reason to say no. It was like his personality came through. I felt like I got a sense of humor in a couple moments. I got some more like his version of like an announcer type thing, but it still felt personable and relatable. Yeah. I got something that was a little bit more warm and intimate towards the end of the demo. Like this would be an easy, like, yeah, I'd want to sit and listen, listen to the whole thing. So in the spirit of things, since we created the folder, we'll throw it in there. Boom. Yeah. Excellent. Let's jump up to another one and see what happens. I guess these are the same.
Yeah.
It's not just where you're going in life, it's how you look. Dermatologist recommended skincare. Now, thanks to my Subaru, I get to work on. You can't take care of your body if you're not taking care of your cells.
Okay, since there's a Subaru spot, I want to hear from Tish first.
Yeah. And Brittany says that because I've been a voice of Subaru for the last 13 years. Yeah, the thing that I hear is an older voice that does not have a lot of versatility, and not a lot of calibration yet. Like it has the potential, but I just heard the same thing. So it's just sort of one thing on there. And then I would almost go from the storytelling part. Subaru is very much from the heart and from the story. Every time I do a spot, I'm like, oh, I'm so your demographic. Because it's about, I love my Subaru. So what is the heart? So then what is the perspective of why would a mature voice be on there? And what is the connection of that? I'm making up all sorts of stories here. Like I'm a mature voice, but I still go, backpack, I do the Pacific Crest Trail in my Subaru or something like that. So just getting again more specific. This felt very two-dimensional, and I know that I don't know Phyllis, but I know that there's probably many more dimensions and colors to it.
Yeah, I would agree. Even from a technical standpoint, uh, because we had just listened to Scott, you know, if you guys notice, every spot felt like a commercial. It just felt real. Whereas like Phyllis, to me, it felt like the voice was all mix wise was all living on top with just some music underneath, which a lot of commercials don't do that. It's a lot more nuanced than that. So it felt like a demo. And I agree with Tish. The energy level felt all the same. And so with Phyllis, I would definitely, actionable wise, I would want to explore different energy levels and different pacing, because some of the pacing didn't feel quite right for some of those clients.
I'm about to say, and probably more specific clients.
Yeah.
Because that's a really big thing that I think a lot of people overlook, is in the spirit of what we talked about of how Brittany and I approach demos is it's an inside out process, right? There's no scenario where there's these, 7 buckets or whatever it is that you have to plop into, and you have to have some version of that on your demo. And I felt like, unfortunately, with Phyllis, that's kind of what it felt like, is it felt like we had our car spot, we had our this spot, we had our this spot, and we had our this spot, which might not be what
she does well.
What is like an inside out approach for her that would be more authentic and more genuine. And so this is kind of where all those things start to overlap, is, what are the clients that you're using on the demo, because they are just as much a reflection of you as like your vocal print is on them. And in these casting offices, the world is not this massive thing, right? Like, people talk and people, pay attention. It's their job day in and day out to kind of know what's going on. And so like, you want to make sure that from a script standpoint and from a client standpoint, that all of those things are in line with your goals and your vocal print and all of those things, so that, again, there's no reason to say no. And look at all these things we're talking about, when in Scott's demo, since that's the most recent one, we were like, yeah, great.
Yeah, I think there's also one other thing. It goes back to the thing that Brittany was saying about trust. I'm a producer. Um, when when you are hired for a job, there's a piece of copy that's in front of you that so many people have spent so many hours. One of the other things we talk about at the dojo is there is no they, there's only we. But when we deliver our audition, we are aligning ourselves to basically say, I'm ready to join your team and help finish this job. So when the piece of copy is in front of us during a session, we are the last milliseconds of this process. We are the cherry on top, but many people have been working on this. And when we're finished, the quicker we can get done in a session, will take the time it needs. The quicker we can be done, it's done, it gets dropped in, and it might be on air later, the next day. It's so the other thing that I hear and feel in this is this is someone with less experience, so that I would not be able to go, oh, this person could do whatever I needed in a session. So this is a more like working on the 10,000 hours and finding that flexibility, getting your clay so we can make anything with it, right? Getting your clay malleable. So that I don't think there's anything. I think there's inherently something there. It just needs to be worked even more, so that we have that, like, oh yeah, I know I'm in good hands here.
Yeah. I love it.
All right. Well,
on to Phil.
On to Phil.
Being a 12 can be tough. Your neighbors side-eye you if your 12 flag isn't raised. Speedway with Miller Lite Card Day and the Steve Miller Band. Welcome to Never Gave Up. Are you interested in technology, drafting technology, or as an IT support specialist?
Well, I think Phil is a fan of the Seahawks. I appreciate you, Phil, being Seahawks fans. Yes, 12. I believed everything on that spot, and again, or in that demo, and I felt like he really understood his branding and what he does well. And as soon as I had the thought of, I wish there was something just a little more conversational and relatable, I got it. It was like towards the end. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I have nothing more to add. I loved that the demo came in under 60 seconds.
Yeah.
That's super awesome. That shows like that Phil clearly understands who his buyers are.
Yep.
He understands the context of how the demo is getting listened to. And also like what Brittany said is this, I had the exact same thought. I was like, this feels kind of like this starts to lend a little promo-y. I wish I had something that was not so announcer based and was a little more conversational and more grounded. And I got a little snippet of that at the end as well. So for me, if I was looking for a voice like Phil that had some energy and had, some authority and took up space to it, but could also be conversational as well, I would want to hear more from Phil. So I would throw him into my next round.
And in the what I was just talking about Phyllis's, Phil is clearly like these all sounded like super on the air, super specific, knowing the genres where that voice serves. And I think it's also an example of that next layer of dimension from Tom's, right? Still say that sort of, hey, almost on the verge of promo-y voice, but in a commercial realm. But you can hear and feel all of the dimensions there. And then interesting enough, to have something personal, and maybe Phil is just random that you chose the Seahawks, but um when you find things that actually resonate with your heart, do you see what happened? Brittany's going to be like, oh, let's get that Seahawks guy. I like all these. I want that Seahawks guy. So when you have something that resonates with you, it might be, you can't, everyone's going to have their own opinions, but it might be something on there hits, right? Oh, I love that. Yeah, that really resonated.
Yeah, and I think a way to kind of like if we were to kind of synthesize all of Phil's stuff into something actionable for people to take away is it's again like what Tish said at the very beginning is this is your demo in the sense that you get to choose what to put on it. It's an organic process, right? So you might as well choose things within the commercial sphere that resonate with you and that give you the best chance of having that connection with somebody else. You know what I mean? If Phil was a Raiders fan and did a Seahawks spot, it's like, whatever, like we're just making some assumptions here about that stuff. But like, if indeed that he's actually like a Seahawks fan and did this thing, the fact that he had that level of connection to it and it immediately drew us all in is the idea, right? So for people that are making their first demos or looking for a place to kind of narrow down this, vast world of commercials, that's where you can start. What are you curious about? What are you naturally interested in? What are your inclinations to where if you didn't put any effort in whatsoever, what would that be like for you? And start there as a way to whittle your client list down. And then you can get more and more specific and, kind of refine it from there as well.
Let's listen to a couple more commercials and then because I know we also have a bunch of character stuff and narration stuff. So how does that feel, Tish? Like listening to just a couple more commercials and then jump into another?
Or maybe we could do a few more and then give quicker feedback. I think that might be a
As a reminder, we're all available outside of this limited time frame together. So there's no time pressure. There's no stress because clearly we're not going to be able to get to everybody. But hopefully, you're starting to see some trends in our feedback and kind of some ways to open your ears up to your own work and stuff. So let's just keep going.
This holiday season, it's gonna be busy. Just you and an ex. And I'm an occupational therapist. And I also have plaque psoriasis and turn it into lightning. The Ford F-150 Lightning.
Okay. This is really interesting because this demo for me falls right in the smack middle gray area of some of the things we've talked about.
Yeah.
Is from a sonic variety standpoint, everywhere I clicked, both in performance and in production, I got something different, which was really great. It felt like I was on a roller coaster ride and that I was going to be surprised by whatever came next, which was excellent.
Yeah.
Love that. That being said, I could not tell you Monk's branding. I can't tell you where I would place that energy and that voice. Like I like if my boss came in and was like, "Hey Ryan, tell me about Monk." I'd have to be like, hold on, let me listen to their demo again. And like, I don't know, like, hold on one second. Like which is really an interesting thing.
For me, I felt like Monk was a super relatable guy, and like I could hear different clients I would put him with. So I had a different experience, and I agree there were different things every time we clicked on stuff. For me, from a technical standpoint, which is very interesting, this never happens. I believed all of the sound design and music choices and the clients, but the recording of the vocal did not feel like real commercials to me. It felt like there was something about it that just didn't feel quite right to me from a technical recording standpoint.
How have we swapped roles
I
today?
don't understand.
You swapped.
This never happens. But like there were so many, for me, there were so many good moments. And I felt that acting wise, Monks understands commercials from an acting perspective. Like I felt like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, and I would have turned it off after the first one, possibly, because the first one felt grainy and like, wait, what? I didn't know what it was. I was like, I was gonna, okay, this is another sort of, and then, whoo, it grabbed me. Like, oh, that's great. Oh, that real testimonial thing, that's awesome. So I would say maybe reconsider what that first thing is. And sometimes that's another thing about a demo. It's almost like, how when you put different colors next to each other, if you put these two colors, this one comes forward and this one receives, but if you put a different color, this one comes forward and this one recedes. Um, when you switch spots, like the order of spots, that's another layer of how you can sculpt that journey.
Yeah,
So
it's
very
important. What you hear first on the
Sets an
demo
expectation.
sets an expectation. And that's a really powerful thing to keep in mind as you're going through and assembling your demo, is making sure that first spot is setting the expectation of the listener where you want them to be, so that the things that come after it feel exciting or feel more intimate or feel whatever on this sliding scale of this roller coaster ride that we're talking about. So you can, that's another actionable thing that I think is great from this demo is, how are you starting your demo, and is it setting the expectation of your buyers in the best way, so that way whatever comes after it feels like a color shift, or feels like it's enhancing your branding, or telling, communicating how you want to be perceived from your thing. Because your demo is like a piece of music. It gets listened to one after the other. There's no scenario where we hear everything all at once and then we're like, we got it. You know what I mean? We hear one spot and then the next and the next. And so how you start is important.
Yeah.
Great.
On to the next.
We do woman first, or?
Oh, sure. Yeah, let's do Marissa then.
Eat, drink, and be merry. Want to feel good about your meat and dairy? Well, Whole Foods is your feel-good love. It's what makes a Subaru a Subaru. Sensitive skin covers a chance to grow. Join more than 9 million people and get Acorn.
And can you believe how low the prices are? Anyway, I'm just gonna go make like a bajillion more calls. Bye!
Okay, great. There's some new stuff in here that we haven't gotten a chance to talk about yet. So a couple of things that jumped out to me is this was so great that we've heard multiple Subaru spots.
Yeah.
is so in the context of listening to demos, this happens all the time, where we start to hear people with the same clients and the same whatever and the same campaigns and the same stuff, which is why being specific and making sure that your voice is actually being used in those types of campaigns is super important, because this becomes another reason to say no potentially. Is, let's say, Subaru uses British male voices. Then all of the female voices we've heard with Subaru spots on them all get shoved out of the pile because it feels inauthentic, and it becomes a reason to say no, because it's very clear that they don't understand that Subaru spots aren't that way. And it's not this super complex thing. It becomes really simple of like when you're assembling scripts or whatever it is for your demo, is just make sure that those clients are actually using your voice and your vibe in their campaigns. If Subaru, for example, only uses British male voices, maybe choose something different, or vice versa, like it just kind of depends. That was the first thing that really jumped out to me was
Some of the clients
some of the clients felt like overlapped with what we've heard before. And also, I'm still not sure if that branding felt super clear. And then another thing that we haven't experienced yet that I'm so glad we did is at the very end of this demo, we heard a clip of sound bites with other actors in it. There was another voice in the spot with Marissa, which, again, in the context of the real world, like on the radio or whatever,
you'll have that.
You'll have that. That's very common. In the context of a demo, though, where we don't have visual reference, we don't have a lot of context, we just have what's coming out of the speakers at us, having another voice in your demo can oftentimes be distracting and might be something worth considering not including.
A great way to, how I like to phrase this is, why would you show off someone else's performance? Because what if the listener likes the voice of the other person on your demo better than yours? You don't want to show off anybody else's stuff.
And that has happened with me
all the time. Then you're listening to a demo and you're like, oh, I like that voice. Who is that person? You don't want to get that email of, who's that voice that was on your demo on the third spot? You don't want to get that email. So focus on you. If a spot has dialogue back and forth, rewrite it, retool it so that it's just one person.
Even if you booked it.
Even if you booked it.
Because again, your demo is not a resume, it's a tool. And our job is to eliminate any distractions, right? And this is one of those other distractions that could creep in, is having other people's voices on your demo.
But what a lovely, bright, friendly voice. Like so many great things that I could hear that voice on, for sure.
Yeah.
Very ear-catching voice.
Yeah, I would definitely say that her branding came across really clear.
And what about you, Tish?
No, I agree. It was refreshing to hear another voice print, and that's another thing that we need to recognize. Sometimes when you have a demo and you're like, delivering to possible representation, and your demo is your calling card to start that conversation, it's really easy to go like, oh, wow, CSD has 300 women on their roster. How am I going to fit in? But really, a certain number of those women will be sort of in the Susan Phyllis realm. A certain number of the guys will be in the Stephen Tom Scott realm. But, and then there might be a bunch, then it's really what you need to look at is who is in your voice print. That's who you're going to be taken into consideration in that context, right? It was super clear, super fun. A little bit, it has a nice cut through, and then everything cut through kind of at the same place.
Yeah.
So everything had that same cut through. Once again, your superpowers, and then how do you calibrate your superpower, right? Your superpower, that becomes your signature, which I thought the first spot was super clear, super simple, captured the fun and whimsy of that spot. So it was a good first piece there.
Yeah, and I would say like a helpful analogy for what we're describing is kind of like if you're listening to different genres of music, right? Like a rock song is defined by guitars, bass, and drums and rock vocals versus like a country song, which is defined by like acoustic guitars and a certain vibe and all of this stuff versus a jazz song, which is defined by its genres. And so in listening to the demos and having your spots like this, and from a production and performance side, it's important to make sure that you're genre specific, right? To make sure that if the first spot out of the gate is a rock song, not every other client on your demo is also a rock song. Things need to ebb and flow and, feel a little different. That way, when we're clicking through things, that's where you get your sense of variety from, is it comes from having a rock song and a jazz piece and a country song and whatever. Not literally, you use your, but as an
analogy.
As an analogy, right? It could be helpful to think that way. If you listen back to your demo through that filter and you go, wow, everything does kind of feel like it's the same song, like off the same album, then that could be something actionable to look at of like, these are easy things that I can tweak that get me a perception of more variety in my work.
Yeah.
And that's not even necessarily a performance thing. It could be a simple volume adjustment of a particular thing. And so all these things play a role and all that stuff.
Go ahead and pull somebody else up. I like the production value from the music standpoint. I think in terms of finding your in and finding facets of yourself, which is also one of the things that we are listening for, you could take that sort of analogy and go, what are you wearing? So what would you be wearing in a Subaru spot, right? Not necessarily a three-piece suit, right? You'd be wearing your, flannel shirt and your hiking boots or something like that, right? So that's another way in to find the variation that we're exploring too.
Yeah. So let's do Jamie. Isn't that Jamie?
Jamie.
Yeah.
Yes. I was like, Jeremy? Jamie. So we'll listen to Jamie and then we'll swap over to some other stuff.
Yeah.
Amazing. Here we go, Jamie.
At United Healthcare, we understand that everybody is in priorities shifted along the way. Long for the price of a 6-inch Subway. David, why is there a horse in my office? Get the special members-only menu and earn points stored free beverage.
Okay.
This is super interesting because you had me at the beginning. I was like, I believe this. Cool. What else we got? But then the voice changed, and not in it felt like a totally different actor. I think it was Subway. So I got super confused. For me, as if I was listening to this demo, I'd be like, wait, is that the same actor? Now I'm confused. Who is this? What? I don't want to deal with it next. Because it just made me, I don't know what you actually sound like now. Like if you walked into my office and you were like, hey, I'm Jamie. I keep seeing Jeremy. Hey, I'm Jamie. I don't know what sound you would have. And so that just made me very confused.
Yeah, I would agree. I felt like, again, it kind of felt like variety for variety's sake, as opposed to having a clear sense of how you want to communicate and how you want people to kind of perceive you as an actor.
Yeah.
And structuring the demo in a way that facilitates that.
It felt more like vocal trickery instead of different energy levels that are authentic of who you are.
That's a great way to put it.
Because when it comes to commercial today, for those of you who are working in commercial, 90% of the breakdowns are real person, non-actor, non-voice actor, non-announcer. We want someone who feels conversational and authentic, and then whatever energy they're looking for, whether energetic or serious or whatever. And so as soon as there's vocal trickery, it turns us off, because it's like, oh, I feel like I'm being lied to. I don't know what's real. I'm going to go with someone who I can trust their voice and know what's real and know what to expect.
I'm in the Matrix.
But there were some great spots, so that it's
it's conflicting.
It's conflicting,
and I think that's that's a kind of a great way to look at it is it's conflicting, which unfortunately would be in the scenario of I've got 200 demos to listen through.
I don't have time to figure this out.
It's a reason to say no, and so something actionable. In Jamie's case, it would be maybe defining, kind of putting a little bit of limitation on things and being like, okay, like if I had to oversimplify things and like describe myself in like some key ways, what would those things be? And listening with an ear to those things with the material I have on my demo, are there some creative edits I can make in order to facilitate that message coming through clearer, so that things don't feel conflicting, they feel like they stack and they feel like an elaboration of the story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What do you think, Tish?
Well, the experience that Brittany just articulated is the roller coaster going off the tracks. Right? She was like, "Yay! Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, okay." Right. So that's the experience on the other side. Yeah, I think it is a little blend, and then I think it's interesting that how in terms of the demos that we've gotten this interesting range of um things that would probably like once again, if you were to put these voices on a spectrum, right? We had Scott and, Phil that were like, "Oh, yes, definitely," and they were kind of a really specific sound, and then, like, Jamie fit like, again, it's like, "Oh, kinda here, but n not quite at that level of nuance." So, yeah. So, I would say it's probably just a matter of, um, honing in even more. There was also something about the timing the timing of some things that felt a little bit like, you're thinking about the timing rather than letting the timing unfold,
Mhm.
like, making the joke happen. So that's just continue to practice and, just not practice, my dad would say, "Are you going to play practice?" Like, "No, I'm an actor, I go to rehearsal." But that's just a matter to continue to explore, are the
Yeah.
actual words that I wanted to continue to explore and allow the nuances. Um
I love it.
Cool, 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 cool. Well, this has been fantastic, guys. And for those of you who haven't, please get time on our calendars and we can get to like more even more one-on-one feedback. We can listen to each and
Absolutely.
talk to everybody. Things that I want to bring to mind is your commercial demo is sort of your calling card. And you could see from some of the things that we heard, like for instance, on, Phil's, where Brittany said, "Oh, it's almost in the realm of promo." Phil could probably book promo work off of his commercial demo. And we don't want something that sounds too much like narration, but if there's a voice that would lend itself is totally in the realm of commercial and would lend itself to a really nice narration, then you could book narration off of your commercial demo, right? If you have, like Marissa, a bright charactery, Marissa doesn't have a charactery voice, Marissa has her voice. Her voice lends itself to maybe being young, bright, animated sort of characters. You might catch someone's ear that way. So just understand that the first of all, your commercial demo, really if it captures the essence of you and an authentic range of all the facets of you, it will serve you in many, many ways. And then just recognizing that that's a great place to start. And then as we look at other genres, those would be additional. I don't know if anyone is old enough to remember Habitrails, like habitats for hamsters that you got like the square thing, and then there were these little tubes, and you could get other parts of it. So think of think of your commercial demo as like your main thing where the water and the wheel is, and then there's other things that you build off, and each one of us is going to have different strengths or different interests that we start branching out in diversifying our voiceover portfolio. That
Yes.
might be a good segue to a next thing. And then really, really on a very fundamental thing, because if you don't know it, if you've never heard voiceover demos, you don't know what's on them. This exploration of some different things, we never want all of the genres on one demo. That's just a clear sign that you don't understand how the business works and it doesn't serve the client, right?
That is
Mhm.
such a good segue. I'm so glad you said that because it's true. When an easy way, when people are like, well, do I need this demo and this demo and this demo, and I'm just going to put everything in one demo. An easy way to oversimplify it is, what is the purpose of the demo? How are you helping the people you're sending it to? And so with a commercial, exactly what Tish says, this is an introduction of like, if I walked into your office, here's me. Here's my essence in different energies. Here's what I do. moving over into character-based work, exactly the same thing. What are you trying to communicate? What kind of jobs are you going for? Video game clients are going to be listening for very different thing than animation clients. That's not to say there isn't overlap, and an animation demo can get you video game opportunities. But if you were sending a video game demo or a video game demo to, let's say, Disney, and your video game demo is full of very emotional scene work and it's very impactful in different dialects, Disney is going to be like, pass, because they're listening for comedy, range, how quick can you go? Because animation moves so fast, and animation is all about comedy. So thinking of those different things and what clients you're sending it to can simplify the debate between like, oh, do I need an animation demo? Do I need a video game demo? Oh, do I want just a random character demo? So think about the clients you're going to serve. Again, that's not to say they can't open opportunities in other things. Focus on one. What are your strengths as an actor? Are you really funny? Are you great at improv? Can you do a ton of different voices that could be in the same scene and we wouldn't know it's the same actor? Then animation is probably where you want to start. Are you more of an on-camera actor? Are dialects and chewing scenery and doing really intense emotional work, is that your jam? Then I'd lean towards video game. So that's to segue us into video games. And since we were talking about timing and stuff, industry standard, just like commercial, an animation or video game demo should be right around 60 seconds. I know everyone's panicking and they're like, oh my God, how can I show off everything I can do in 60 seconds? You can't, and that's okay. Think of it like you want to leave them wanting more. You want to show off the best of what you can do, of like, here are the characters I do, here are the voices I do, I'm undeniable. You want to call me in and see what else I can do.
Exactly. And for a little context in terms of casting with this type of stuff, in a commercial setting, it was very common to listen to commercial demos and oftentimes book the talent just off of their demo. Mm-hmm. In a character-based setting, whether it be animation clients or video game clients, the demo serves to open the door, and then the audition request comes as a result of hearing the demo. Yeah. The idea is like, you know, as to use just Adam, because that's the first name I saw. Like when we listen to Adam's demo, we're like, oh man, like, yes, Adam's got like that thing that this character needs. Like, again, we're listening through a specific filter of what we need for the job.
The age range is perfect.
The age range is great. Like, timing is great. Comedy's great. Oh my gosh, amazing. Let's throw Adam an audition. Then the demo just served its purpose, right? We heard it. We built some trust, and Adam gets the audition. And then from there, the booking comes on whether, you know, his voice and vibe is a natural fit for that specific character. Yeah. But that's how that works. Is like, you know, commercial demo, like Brittany said, is kind of a broader kind of Swiss Army knife of a demo that can open a lot of different conversations for you. And then with this, you know, we're listening for very specific things, whether it be animation or video game. And then those things become the catalyst for getting auditions sent out. And then that's how you're going to book.
And one more thing about an animation demo, an animation session, you can be hired for up to 3 voices. So for one session, you can cover 3 voices. So we also want to make sure, while you're keeping in your signature and you're, you know, putting your super strengths, to show that you can also do some other things, will make a producer's day. Because if I can hire one person for one session fee and get 3 voices, that makes my job as a producer better, right?
Absolutely.
Easier. So that's what we're always doing, and try to make everything easier for the team. That doesn't mean that that you put something like, oh, and I have my grandma voice, right? if you're not, right? Marissa wouldn't put her grandma voice per se, but right, yeah. So I think you get the picture there.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's start with Adam, and we'll go from there.
Okay, almost 8 o'clock for tonight's Super Powerball.
All right, this is it. We're gonna draw on the count of 3.
Finally, my time has come!
Oh, this is my mailbox.
Okay, interesting. So, what were your thoughts?
Okay, go ahead.
Oh no, you go ahead.
I was going to say, range, fantastic. Like every voice we clicked on, I felt was different. Was a different character, which is great. And it's like great if they were in the same scene together. I might not know it's the same actor. However, the pacing for animation was real slow. Animation in today moves like lightning. It's going constantly. So I felt like the pacing wasn't quite right. So it felt more like a video game demo to me, pacing wise, than an animation demo. So even though the range was there, I didn't get the fun, energetic laugh, kookiness that comes from animation. It all felt very steady and kind of serious when I wanted some more moments of lightness.
Right. And that's what I was going to say is this is just like with commercial stuff of kind of getting outside of the imagined idea of what a commercial is, in the same way with animation and video game stuff is, even though we might watch a lot of cartoons, we might play a lot of video games, that doesn't necessarily mean that we have an accurate picture of how to represent those things in the context of the demo. Like a really helpful way that I like to think about it is like, if I were to ask you to draw a tree, we would all do something like this, right? We would draw two little things and then we'd have this little bushy thing and like, that's a tree. I drew you a tree. But you didn't actually draw a tree. You drew what we all know as a symbol of a tree. An actual tree has a lot more detail, and it has like it's wiggly and it moves and it's like very specific and nuanced. And by that, I mean,
is it a pine tree? Is it a maple tree?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly that. And so what Brittany's talking about is getting away from our symbols of trees and getting into what an actual tree is, what a cartoon feels like, what is the tempo of the comedy. What Tish was saying, you know, you have a couple of options when it comes to character-based stuff. Are you going for leading role type things where you might not have a ton of different vocal prints or characters that you can do, but you're going for like a very specific type of leading role thing? Or are you going for that like utility player role where you can hire me for a 4-hour session and I can deliver you 4 characters all in the same scene that are all talking to each other and you would never know that it's the same actor?
And to make it even simpler, on top of that, I love the tree analogy. To put it into animation, listening through this demo, I couldn't tell you what network any of those or shows any of those voices would be on. Nothing sounded Disney to me. Nothing sounded Disney Junior or Cartoon Network. So getting specific about the networks you're shooting for, the types of shows you're shooting for, whether it's, you know, you're going for little, so the Nick Juniors, Disney Juniors, Cartoon Neato, versus adult animation, which is a totally different vibe. So getting even more specific about that will just take this to the next level.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that's there's so many layers. This is why it's a whole nother genre, and although the things that we want to bring you, et cetera, there's things that apply to all the work that you do in any of the genres, and then understanding this is its whole microcosm. At the dojo, we talk about the tone of the tune, and then the next layer of nuance is the tone of the tune, and you can, as Brittany was saying, the client, the network, who makes what kind of thing. The demographic is something that like, who is this for? The sense of humor, like what are the boundaries? So talk about what are the boundaries of the playground of each piece of copy. So those are all things. That is why doing an animation demo isn't just like, hey, I'm a cowboy, and your cowboy was really good at him. Like you're like,
I liked that voice a lot.
Like
for sure.
RDR2 good. Like that was good, like is good, but it's not just sound of. And one of the things that I one of the things that did grab me about Adam is that each of the little snips did have something in the little snip that was what is this character after? And that's really the heart of animation too. It's not the whoa, the pretty voice, but I can't reach that, right? It's what are you after, right? So what is the heart of it first? What is the emotional life first? So that's sort of a little like how we're thinking about things differently. And then what you can be listening and noticing, right? When you're watching BoJack Horseman versus I don't know, what's
Blaze
the
and the Monster Machines.
yeah.
Or the Owl House
Yes.
versus whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
All the things. Great. Well,
Let's go down to Amanda Interactive.
Which means video
Pitiful,
games.
sniveling, pathetic creatures begging at my feet for style. Oh, yeah. Since that makes you look fat, Mommy works for a nefarious crime syndicate. Okay. Wait, are those tears? Tears of joy for meeting Boo Boo in person? Oh, yeah. Humorous exchange complete.
Interesting. So, a little long.
Opposite.
No, totally different feel. So this clearly had no, it was just vocal samples. So I would call this more of a like a speed reel. I think when we put samples without music or sound design, which is totally okay. I started off that way. Nothing wrong with that at all. Very cool choice. When we do something that doesn't have different context of music and sound design underneath it, as an actor, our challenge is to make things feel very, very different. So we don't get lost in, wait, is this the same character? Is this the same scene? And making it short. Amanda, for this, without any sound design or music, I would say cut it down to your best 30 seconds of little clips of your range, and that'll serve you much better. And have people be able to hear your range in a very short segment so they'll actually hear all of the differences. What I liked is that there was a lot, I could tell that you know video games. That being said, I wasn't quite sure which games these would be for. Like I couldn't, if first person shooter's not your jam, totally fine, but I didn't hear anything that belongs in an action game. And a lot of video games, there are action moments. And so I needed that pacing of like, get down, what are you doing? Grenade, all those things. And then there were some things that felt really comedic and felt more animation, so I didn't really understand what game that would be for. So it's just getting even more specific for me.
Yeah, and I would agree. I think some judicious editing would be good to get that down. But this is like I guess if there was one key thing that if we were like, whether you're making an animation demo or you're making a video game demo, what should I focus on? The one thing is scene work.
Yes.
Is without any support from the production side of things, meaning sound design, music, effects like reverb or anything like that, can I hear where you are, what you're doing,
and who you're talking
to just in your vocal? As an example, let's say that we have a scene where Brittany and I are walking across a bridge and the bridge breaks and I fall and I die. All right, fantastic, lovely scene. So glad we wrote it. So, and the first bit, it's like, oh yeah, like what a lovely day. Oh, look at this bridge. Okay, I'm gonna go check it out. You stay over there, okay? Okay. And I died. You know what I mean? In that very short amount of time, I was right here close to Brittany. I ran out onto the bridge and yelled back to her about that the bridge seemed safe. Then I was in my head wobbling through the situation, and then I fell off and I died, right? So that level of scene work is what is expected and what is very common in any short scene that you watch in any animation thing or any video game, right? That stuff is happening. We're not just standing in one place like, hello friend, I would like to welcome you to my seminar today.
And then the other thing that happens in the same way that we spoke of how do we fit into the workflow process of a commercial, right? That we talked about that. In terms of animation, there's prelay and there's dubbing, right? But if you're doing prelay, the voice is the first thing. And you might do scratch that the animators start creating off of. But if you can be as specific about what that tree is doing, if he goes and then says the line, there's stuff that we can bring to life, and we as voice actors start that process in the prelay realm. And then in dubbing, it's a little bit different because it's already done and you have another language to reference for the energy and things like that. So we're still bringing it to life, but it's a little bit different because it's already done, right? But just to understand the responsibility of that we have in the animation process is joyous and a big responsibility. So when you can bring all that, then the animators are like, let's work with them.
And that's the great thing about having a demo is because you can choose all those things. So the more of that you bring to your demo, the more it's like, we got to work with this person. I can see everything they're doing. I want them on my project. So Amanda, I would say pare it down to your best 30 seconds that shows the most range. If you're not planning on putting production with any of that stuff, and that'll serve you well.
And then just one, go ahead, Brian.
I was just going to say, like, in terms of making it actionable and like really making sure that like the scene work comes through loud and clear.
That was a great example. Yeah. And then I would just reiterate what Brittany said, that everybody has recording capabilities now. So to think of anything that you put forward as like a sample, right? I don't have my website, but here's some. So just think of it as creating samples so someone could hear what you can do, but don't think of that or present that as your fully produced professional demo.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And again, that's a great note, and it plays into a lot of the things we've touched on kind of under the hood today, is this idea of feeding into expectations, right? When I look at a file called Amanda K interactive demo, as a casting director, I know what I should be hearing when this comes out of the speakers. And when that's not the case, it becomes a distraction and a reason to say no. In the same scenario where I'm looking at, so-and-so's commercial demo, when I hear commercial demo as a casting director, as a client, as somebody who's doing this day in and day out, I'm going, okay, I know what to expect here. Mm-hmm. And when it betrays that expectation, either through like not being current, or it becomes clear that the person doing it has put together samples, or it's not finished, or whatever it might be, all of these things become kind of reasons to say no, which is what we don't want. We don't want any distractions in there.
Yeah.
So
you want to do one? Do you want to do one more, Tish, or do you think we should do questions? Because I'm like looking at the time, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, we have 10 minutes.
Almost to time. You know what I'd love to do? Let's just pop through the rest of these.
Sure. Yeah.
Like pop, and then we'll keep little notes, and then I just want to see like how. I would love to hear a little bit more variation, and if there's any things that, in the same way that Scott Burns' demo was like, yeah, that's it, that's it, right? So
great.
Let's take just 2 minutes to do that, and then we'll open it up for questions.
I love it.
Yeah. So here we have
Anthony Zambito. You stay away from my sister! The entire world! Whoa, Charlie, way to hang 10! Meeting adjourned. And that's what it would sound like if I held a meeting. Oh, no word.
Pull yourself together. Time's running out. I've checked the barricade. We're all that's left.
Hey, handsome. Haven't seen you before.
Cross that river. Use the turtles as stepping stones. What's going on? I can't feel anything.
Floods every other day, a crazy wizard.
Waste my time at your peril.
Life. But if we work together...
Good morning, Mega City 1!
And I never expected to last this long anyway.
It tastes about the same.
All right, a little adjustment here, and
Why are there two different names?
You never suspected a thing, did you? No, I gave him the key! That's how he got. I'm gonna change myself. I'll always do my best.
Cute.
Alright. Spider will go and distract the guards.
Sing? I don't want to hear any. No. Not points load.
Earth is under imminent cosmic threat. It will do when it gets old. Traitors death.
Summers by the sea, winter's warm and free. All of this and we get the...
Okay, I like that song. That was really cute. That was super fun.
This one.
Pull yourself together.
Isabella.
Time's running out. I've checked the barricade.
That one rang true.
Yeah.
Like if in the context of doing everything so quick, Isabella for me felt like that demo had the best context to support the performances that were there. And clicking through, I felt like we were getting snippets of different types of shows. I could hear games. I could hear shifts in energy. I could hear shifts in context, and I felt like I was getting a good glimpse into some scene work throughout.
Yeah.
A lot of the other demos we clicked on that were just primarily dry voice with minimal sound design. Not that it's a sound design demo, but in comparison, in a list of demos, it felt really underwhelming, and they felt like they were missing something. They felt like they were unfinished or something was off about them. And then also there was one, I think it was Jim, where
there's another name on your demo, and that's confusing.
Right. I suspect that it's probably the demo producer you worked with to make it.
Get rid of it.
Make sure, have them re-export your demo for you without their name on it, because it's weird to be like, I'm clicking on Jim's demo, but there's a dude named Matthew in the metadata. That's weird.
Yeah. So
and then you don't know if anybody has any experience or bias about something. Those definitely a situation where someone who used to be an agent was producing demos and presented like, and then you should tell them I sent you, and the agent that
where was his name again? I'm sorry. Where was his name?
it's in the meta. So if you open it up,
Oh, okay. Oh, shoot. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So for
didn't know that.
everybody, it doesn't matter who produced your demo. Nobody cares. We should be in the background. No one should. It should be all about you. You should not have a demo producer's info on your demo. It's not important. It's not their job. It's not going to open any other doors for you.
Indeed.
So
Yeah. That being said, Jim's caught my ear, Ventus's caught my ear,
Yeah.
and there was something about Nicholas is going for it as well. That caught my ear.
Yeah, and the great thing about clicking through is there were clicking through that fast, there were some people that I was like, ooh, okay, cool range, cool range, cool range. And I would, depending on what you're casting on, I would listen in more detail. If we had time, I would definitely want to listen to more stuff and give feedback in the moment. But just going through that fast, I mean, I agree with Ryan. For me, Isabella's stood in my mind as like, I believe Isabella is working in video games. She knows what the genre is. I can trust her to bring her in for an audition with my client.
Yeah.
So
I think it becomes that simple,
Yeah.
like listening down in that context. And just for context, that is how fast I would work every day, because I had multiple clients, and all those clients
need different things.
Need different things, and so I'm working that fast and going yes, no, 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 yes, yes, no, no, yes, no, and that was my day, 9 to 5 and whatever. So it does move that quickly, which is why I think if we were to sum everything up today in terms of, the whole demo process, is it's more about removing distractions than it is about being flashy, right? Is anything that would be considered a distraction from you and what you're doing in all the various ways we've touched on today, those are things to look at that might be lessening the impact that your demo's having, that you want it to have on potential clients and buyers and things. Is it's more about getting rid of any reason to say no than it is about being tricky or fancy or anything like that. Authenticity wins every time. And if there's nothing distracting in there, then like what Brittany said from the very beginning, if your demo is getting you into the rooms you want to get in, it's getting you the quality and quantity of auditions that you're looking for, and even direct bookings, then your demo is a good demo.
It's doing its job.
If your demo is not doing those things and you take an honest look and say, you know what? I'm not getting the amount of auditions I would like to be getting. I'm not getting the types of clients that I made this demo to get. What is going on? Then a lot of the things we've touched on today are areas to go back in and re-listen with a fresh ear and make some of these changes we've talked about. It could be a simple swapping of order. It could be needing to re-record things. It could
Trim
be
stuff out.
It could be trimming stuff out. It could be, looking more in depth in terms of who's represented on your demo as clients, or all the things we've talked about today. But I would say if we were to like super bring it back, it's all about removing distractions and about just being authentic for you and not trying to do something just because somebody else did it. You know what I mean? This is your demo and it's your chance to bring your strengths to the table, whatever those might be in whatever, capacity that might be.
And so also it's if you haven't made your demo, then it's your first demo and it will be changing. And just like a headshot, you want to freshen it up a little bit. You might have something new that is like, oh my God, this. And you might have something that you've had from the very beginning that captures the essential you that it's always on there. One of the first spots I booked had a great little out that was, would you like the number to call? I bet you would. And it was on the end of my demo for a long time. So there's all sorts of variations. We've just got a couple of minutes. So what I'd love to do is wrap up with information about how to keep in touch and how to do the next thing. And Jeffrey, would we be able to have everybody have access to all of the demos? So you could listen, so everyone could listen to each other's? Is that something we can do?
That would be possible to do, yeah. I could,
Okay.
I'll figure out something and get something set
Okay,
up.
but
But yeah,
I
we
think
could talk about
that could be valuable then, to take these little snips that we've heard, and then you can have this little study packet of what it's like to be a demo producer, or what it's like to be a casting producer. So let's do that. And then Brittany and Ryan, do you have a couple of minutes to stay after for a few questions?
Yeah, we could do two. I think we have time for two.
Yeah, just a few minutes. Yeah.
All right. And then again, everybody, please get on our calendars and we can answer all your questions one-on-one. So, Jeffrey, how does everyone keep in touch?
Great question. You can keep in touch I already posted the links in the chat. Brittany and Ryan, you can email them at studios.saltandsea@gmail.com. There's also the 15-minute call link included up there.
It's salt and sea, right? Not saltansea.
Sure. Well, and it'd be easier just to go directly to the demo website. It's just nextlevelvoicedemos.com, and there's a link there that you can click
directly onto our calendar.
And you can see pictures of our dog and listen to samples of demos and all of these things. So it's just nextlevelvoicedemos.com, and it's in the chat there. And it'll link us right up. And like we've been saying before, we would love to hear from you. We have a 15-minute no obligation call to listen to your demo in its entirety, answer your questions. We're available and easily accessible, so don't hesitate to reach out with any questions or anything like that.
Yeah.
Great.
And go ahead with the Dojo.
Oh, you go right ahead, Tish.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And if you want to get on my calendar, you can go to www.thevodojo.com/CWD. That will get you on my calendar. The other thing that I wanted to put out is if you haven't made your demo yet, John Florian of VO Extra invited me to do another demo webinar with him that is about how do you know you're ready. So here we looked at the whole scope and hands-on things. And in that webinar, we'll be exploring a little bit more about like what might be on your mind as you're about to make a demo or know when to make a demo, et cetera. What are those things? And I'm going to put that in that's on May 10th. May 10th in the evening. So would love to see you there if you haven't made your demo and want some support there. So awesome. Thanks everyone for being here. And if you can stay around for a couple questions, that's great. Otherwise, this replay will be up on our website. And hopefully you guys got a lot out of it. And we'll answer a few questions. Do we want to ask for Dojo O's as you leave? Or is that too much?
Yeah,
Let's
everybody can type in the Dojo O's. For the interest of time, I know that usually on calls like Ask the Sensei that have more of a Q&A lean, we invite folks to come in and speak with their voices. But since we did hear so many of these voices already today, would it be cool if I just
I
pose them
think that
rapid
would
fire
be
so we could chew through them
sufficient.
and
Yes.
make sure that we get to all of them? Yeah. All right. So Tom, first question was from Tom Cooper. Is there a difference between East and West Coast produced demos? Is there a demographic difference?
Nope. When it comes to where you are, the only difference between demos is what your personal goals as an actor are. That's the only thing that matters. When we chat with a new client, that's the first thing we want to get clear on, because everyone's goals are different. Everyone's experience is different. Every actor is different. That's the only thing that matters. If you have a West Coast demo, it's not going to be any different than an East Coast. But if you're focused on a smaller market region and you're not interested in a bigger national market, that will sound different than a large market demo. So yeah.
Great, thanks. Next question comes from Kelsey V. How long do you recommend each spot to be? We kind of touched on this throughout. And then is there like a sweet spot for how many samples should be included?
That's a great question that we get all the time. So just like we've been talking about today, there is no formula. There's nothing cookie cutter about demos, or there shouldn't be. Every actor is different. Every branding is different. And how many spots, length of spots, all those things can play into your branding. So if we were doing a commercial demo and your branding is like mine, super fast talking, really energetic, upbeat, and all that stuff, having more spots but shorter can play into your branding. If you're more of a warm storyteller vibe and you really want to stretch out and be expansive, fewer spots that are longer will play to your advantage. So there's no cookie cutter thing, and that's something that you would definitely want to talk to your demo producer about.
And that is one of the benefits of working with people who are actual professional demo producers. Brittany and Ryan have a particular way that they work that really, really customizes it to you. What are your goals and what are you doing? So think of it, think of it as you come in and you are the colors and palettes, and they are the people who are used to painting, creating the composition that brings all of those things to light. You might like, hey, I'm blue, and and you can put something blue on there, but Brittany and Ryan know how to make a composition that highlights what you are and tells your story in the context of what's going on in the marketplace. So there's just levels of understanding of the business in general, and then an intuitive process that really tunes into you. That is where, that's why we invest money and time into a professionally produced demo. There's so much that we don't know, that once again, we don't give our power away. Oh, you know everything. Like, we know ourselves too, but that's why working collaboratively with somebody who does know those things and then empowers you in the process. So that's a great way to think about it.
Awesome. The next question comes from Emily Schroeder. Do you want to box yourself in by giving yourself an archetype, such as relatable? Is that better than being versatile? Is specific better than versatile?
That's a very another question we get all the time. As actors and as casting professionals and people who work in the industry, when you see an actor, you know they can do so many things. If I said, hey, give me a high energy read, I would expect you as an actor to be able to do that. But how we like to phrase it is, instead of thinking about it as boxing yourself in, think about it more as, when it comes, let's focus on commercial. Who are you? What can you do? What is snarky for you? If you're not snarky at all, don't put it on your demo. If you're really high energy, let's hear what that is for you. And let's hear it when you're a little more laid back and chill. So think of it more of not limiting yourself, but more of like, what do you have to show off? What do you want us as the listener to walk away from hearing? We have heard it from casting directors before. If you give us too many options, I don't know what to do with you. And so I'm going to pass, because I'm like, I don't know what box you fit in. You're giving me too many options. I don't have time to think through it. I just need to focus on like, oh, I'm looking for a upbeat person who can also be warm and relatable. I'm going to focus on this person who clearly can do that, versus someone who gives me a million options and I'm like, I'm a little overwhelmed. I don't know. I don't have time.
Yeah, and I would say, to like an even easier way to look at it would be that if we were to put everything together, right? How can we be versatile with everything, right? Everything is just everything, right? There's too much. You know what I mean? Versatility by necessity means putting a box on things, putting some boundaries around things, and getting specific. That way, by being specific about what you're doing and who you are and how you're wanting to communicate and be perceived as a voice talent, by putting that box or that limitation, it actually frees you up to provide versatility within this thing. That way, when I, as a casting director, hear you as a performer, I can relate to you and I can hear the variety, as opposed to having variety for variety's sake. Because if everything's there, then it means nothing, right? You need limitation and specificity in order for your variety to come across as variety, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think there's also there's the idea of variety doesn't come just from being completely different. It's opening up another range of nuances, right? And that's where the skill set comes in, right? We can change our voice, we can do something different. But if there's just this little calibration that allows different layers of nuances to come in, that's what we're looking for, right?
Yeah.
Great question, though.
And then Jeffrey, let's do one more and then we have to jump off for a session.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the extra time. So let me see which is one that we haven't kind of touched on. Lori, if you want to find out who the right demo producer is, do a free consultation with Ed, and that should be true for any demo producer, not just Brittany or Ryan. Brittany and Ryan taught me that.
Do your research.
Are there significant advantages to recording or producing someone's demo in person versus remotely?
Ooh,
From Todd Kogan.
that's a great question. One of the great things about the pandemic is that it has opened up clients' ears to be like, oh, just because you're recording from home doesn't mean it's going to be crappy. Because in LA, that was definitely an expectation of like, if you're not here, means nothing. Executives didn't understand it. They were like, well, you have to be here. That is no longer the case, thank goodness. So there is no advantage to doing something in person versus remotely. Sessions today, when you're booked and working as a professional actor, nowadays, 9 times out of 10, even if you're in studio, your director is going to be remote. You're not going to see anybody other than the engineer. Sometimes you will, but most of the time nowadays you won't.
And they're going to be in your headphones anyway.
Yeah.
Whether they're on the other side of a piece of glass from you, or if they're halfway across the world, they're always going to be in your headphones.
Yeah.
So there's thankfully, again, like one of the great things that has changed about the industry, and there's now this more broader understanding that it does not matter if it's in person or whatever. There's no tangible difference between being like in LA and recording in LA versus being in New York and recording with a demo producer in LA. it really just becomes a lot. It just becomes a lot more of a relationship thing of like, do you vibe with the demo producer? And regardless of where they are on the planet, like, are they the best fit for you?
Yeah.
And do you guys speak the same language? You know, is it a great collaboration between you and who you're working with, regardless if they're across the room from you or whether they're across the country from you?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, you know. So
And I
great
think,
question.
yeah, and just to add that, and we'll wrap up. The way that Brittany and Ryan work is really great because they can work with you wherever you are in the world. If you are choosing to do the session at home, you will have that layer of having some slight tech brain going on while you're, you know, that you'll be recording. Ryan will be engineering, but there's going to be something that you're responsible for. However, they are very diligent in working with you to make sure your sound is demo ready. So in some ways, when you work with Brittany and Ryan, you also get your booth up to speed for sure. And that's, you know, like we just said, that's often how you're going to be working. So it might be where you're most comfortable because you're used to working in your own, you know, little spaceship or closet or whatever. Then there's another option, which is you can find a local studio. So you'd have that little bit different of like, oh, we're going to the theater, of being in the space and with somebody who's there, and being directed by Brittany and Ryan. So there's something beneficial about that as well. Or you could fly out and work with them in person. That we've had people do that as well. So all of them work, and there's benefits to each, and really it's what feels comfortable. What feels comfortable is really it, and what's in your budget too, right? Because renting a studio adds a little bit. Yeah, but it's all good. It's all good.
Quality
And
wise,
It doesn't matter.
doesn't matter for us.
Yeah.
Well, thank you
All
very
right.
much, Brittany and Ryan and
Yes.
Tish and everybody for coming onto the call today.
Yeah, I look forward to getting to meet you all and hearing, going through all your demos. Thank you for I saw someone thanking everyone who did share their demos for sharing them. That's brave and true and helpful for everybody. So thanks so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, well, stay close. Everything's going on at the dojo all the time. All dojo all the time. So check it out on the website, and thank you for being here and spending time with us. And thanks, Brittany and Ryan and Jeffrey, and have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.